All right, everyone. We're going to be looking at assignment 8. This is just for the exam. I will fully admit, I shouldn't admit these things, but I was expecting, because of the timing of everything and because of the 1 week delay, I expected assignment 9 to be a review assignment for all the stuff for the exam. Assignment 8 was new material. Unfortunately, the exam is after assignment 8 is around when assignment 8 goes in, just before assignment 9 goes out. Still, all the material being covered for the exam. It's new material before we have a chance to really review it multiple times. So I would love to make sure that we are all on board with this. Ask questions. I keep on having people saying, I spent 17 hours on an assignment, and holy crap, but I don't want you to be suffering or in silence. So ask questions. I'm more than happy to do other review sessions or anything else that's going to help. Hopefully this video will help. So here is what we're actually doing, and hopefully I'm not going to get like some kind of janky video here. You're going to be reading in a text file that is what's called comma delimited, as in the thing that separates different fields. And I don't know if I have an example of this. Let's see if I have a good example of this. There we go. This is just another course, but when I have a spreadsheet, those are fields. The difference between this and this and this and this and this, each of these fields, if I have a text file, if I put a comma in between, it would say, oh no, I'm on to the next field now. It's a way you can actually export this thing to a comma separated value file or a CSV file, meaning it's using commas to separate your fields. You will get a table, you will get a text file, just plain text file, not a Word document, nothing special, just characters. You'll get a text file that looks like this. You can read this into Excel, and you will get an Excel document with the first column being all the student numbers, the second column being the first course they took, second column being third column being the second course they took, fourth column being the third course they took. It'll just work magically. That's actually what's going on. We can do tab delimited, we can do comma separated value files. In this case, we're doing comma separated value files. In this file, the first field is a student number, and then it's a course that they took, then it's another course that they took, then it's another course that they took. What your job is, what you're trying to do for your, in this case, is I'm trying to read in this text file, read in each line, the full line. That's what fgetS is for, or fgets as people like to call it. It's file get. I'll get a line of text from a file. That's what the F stands for. You'll get a line of text, like, let's use this one here. There we go. You will then pull off field 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, our fields start at 0, but so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 0, 1, 2, 3 in this case, actually. Just 4 of them. And I will pull off those individual chunks of text using, I do believe you have a function given to you. Let's have a look at what it looks like. This is something you don't have to write at all. Get field at. This will get the field at position 0. Get the field at position 1, 2, or 3. So I pass in a string like, hi, how are you? And then I will how big is the thing? I will take in a string like this. I need to know how big the character array I'm going to put stuff into is. That's what outsize is. Out buffer is where I'm going to be storing that text. And then ultimately, I want to figure out which field I'm dealing with. So I will take a string like this as a text line. I moved my fields around, I do believe. My output buffer, I gotta fix that comment here. Anyways, here's my string of text. The size of my output buffer, let's say it is size 4. Well, that means I could store up to 4 characters. If it was 10, I could store up to 10 characters in this thing here. This array here, how big is it? Well, it's size 4. Okay, so I'm going to take this string. I'm going to pull off, and if I'm looking for index number 1, 0, 1, I'm going to put how in my output buffer, and then just say, oh yeah, I've saved 4 characters into this thing. I'm going to return the length of the string at the end. That was already written for you. You didn't have to touch this at all. That's the reason why the comment's out of date even. So what I would expect here is I can get the field. I would look through this thing here. I'd go through index 1. That would be the word how. It's going to get put in the output buffer. And what I return is 3, the length of that string. Remember, our strings always have a /0 at the end. It's actually equal to the number 0. It's not the character 0. It's equal to the number 0, but we have a special character for it just to say, look, that wasn't an accident. It's the end of my string. Okay. I might want to have something to get the number of fields I have. So if I have how are you, I get 1, 2, 3, 4. They're at indices 0, 1, 2, 3, but there are 4 fields in here. How do you do that? How do you find the next comma, the next comma, the next comma, the next comma? How do I walk down this thing? There's hints about that in the assignment. I'll give you another hint here. What I really want to do is I can find a character. It will give me a pointer, and I know we haven't really talked about pointers that much, but it's just the location in the string. So if I look for the comma in this thing, it's going to give me the address in memory of this comma here. And if I add 1 to it, I get the address in memory of this H here. If I did a printf for the memory at that location, I would get how are you. Essentially, when I deal with the character array, I'm just dealing with the pointer that points to the front of the string. That's all we've ever had with an array. It's pointing to the front of the string. If I move where I'm pointing further down, I return the rest of the string. Okay. Your job is, so we're going to extract course information for each student. I'll give you a line of text. Okay. And then when I read through that line of text, I will then dump it into some kind of structure you will define. Now that could be, I might need to have like a whole bunch of different character arrays. I can have arrays of arrays of arrays of arrays. I can do all sorts of crazy things. So maybe I want an array of arrays. So let's say I have 5 fields, and each one of those things is a character array. I give an example of that as well. So I can store these character arrays. I can store what the student number is in a structure. And I'm going to return that structure at the end. So task 1, make a structure. Make sure it works. Task 2, if I give you a line of text like how are you, can you pull that structure? Can you deal with that structure using get field at and this function you're going to write, get number of fields. So I can, if I get the number of fields, I know how many I'm going to walk down, and I can get field at 0, field at 1, field at 2, field at 3, however many fields I have. Once I've done that and I've stored all this stuff in the student courses structure I've made, this is what that returns. I would test that. I wouldn't even read the file yet. Don't even talk about reading the file yet. You pass me in a string of text like, hi, how are you? Or let's say this thing right here, this string right here, put it in quotes, pass it in. If you pass in that thing, what do you end up getting? Do you get the right structure? Make sure it works. Try another one. Try this one down here, let's say. Make sure it works. After that, what we're going to do, and let me go back to it. So once I have this thing done, I'm now going to go to, I am going to read in first of all, what I want to be able to do is, I move these tasks around, so that's why the numbers are a little off here. Once I've gotten this, I want to see if the person passed 1400. So are any of those fields inside the structure bit 1400. That's what we're looking for. We have built-in comparison operators, things that compare strings. Is this string equal to bit 1400? We can do that. strcmp, string compare, allows us to do that. Or str, finding a string within a string, substring, essentially. Both of those, you got to play around with it. This whole thing, this entire assignment is about practicing and playing with string operations so that you can actually use them at other times. So if you get a little confused, the point of the assignment is for you to be playing with and trying out the string operators talked about in the lectures. So str would be a wonderful function in this case. I need to find if bit 1400 is in the string, for example. Okay. Once I have that, then I want to read in the text file. Or I could read in the text file. I could just jump to task 4 and then go back and do the other ones if I wanted to. But reading in the text file will involve me opening the file, me going line by line, reading in a line of text at a time, then closing the file afterwards. Once I read in a line of text, I pass it into my extract course info, right? I'm going to make a student courses structure based on that line of text, and then I'm going to see if that student passed bit 1400, one after the other. And at the end of the day, when I'm done, I'm going to return how many students I've read in. I think it will return the number of students I've read in. I'm each line of text squares. Okay. Yeah, well, that's what I'm telling you to do, at least in the code. Tell me how many students were read in from this file. Just useful feedback. Now, what I did is I could print off the information about the student, and I can actually print it off into another file if I wanted to. In fact, that's what I did over here. That was, I think, an optional thing to test around in the course, but what I could have is you read in all the files, you make all the structures, and if the person passed 1400, then you output it to this text file here. That's a previous version of what the assignment was. You sort of need an array of student courses in order to do that. But if you have the old version of the assignment, or if you want to play around with it, it's purely optional. But if you want to play around with it, that would be another thing you could practice. How do I output to output it to another file? So here's what this thing's going to look like. Hopefully, will it run? I may have to pause the video and then come back in a second with the actual solution file. Unreferenced local variable. Okay, let's see if the things blow up. Gotta move this over. And I have a bunch of tests already in my main method. And notice I have an output so that if I try and print out the information about the student course and there's nothing in it, I print out optional this. Like this was an optional extra function printing out information about the student course. Well, I didn't fill in that function, so I have a printf statement to say, hey, by the way, you didn't fill this optional thing in. So if you pass in a text file, just a line of text, and I check to see if it's passed. So this allows me to test my code without reading in the text file. Just keep on calling this print course test. I can just keep on printing it out and make sure it works. If I go up to the top here, let me see here. Here we go. Here's a bunch of test cases. I put them in there because I want to see if it's going to be useful. It allows me to test my code. I was actually going, hey, test the print fields, right? I want to test how this thing reads in properly. I want to print course test and run a bunch of other tests. What I really want is just, this is press test fields. This is just a given function that we have here. Let me see here. That allows me just read in each of the fields. Notice, by the way, this function here, test print fields, I get the number of fields and I get each of the individual fields. Oh, wait, that's going to look almost exactly what we're doing with the assignment. There are other examples of me parsing a text file for you to look at as well. I'm even using, am I using string length in here? I probably have a string length in here somewhere as well. The idea is methodically go a little bit at a time, make sure your code works, move on to the next part. You're practicing more practice with structures, and you're practicing how to deal with strings. They're just a character array of characters with a 0 at the end, a /0 at the end, special character to say I'm at the end of my string. But as a result, there's some special functions that we have available to us, like strlen for string length, strchr, string character, finding a character in a string, or strcmp for string compare, strcp, cpy for copy. Right? There's a number of functions that you have available that that we're playing around with, and I want you're just trying to get practice with that. The one last note: if you have notice, if I let me take one of these files, and hopefully I have properties of that. Nope, that's not going to work. That's not going to work either. I will just state it for the record then. My text file is in exactly the same folder as my CPP file. If you're running it from Visual Studio, that's where your text file needs to be. Not just dragged in here. I need to make sure it's in the directory where this is located. I'll try and find an example of it, and you're not allowed to look at that, so that's fine. I'm just looking for I'll leave it alone. It's in the actual folder where this is actually located. Let me find it. I think it's important enough to show you. So here I am in my folder full of all my different assignments, and let me have a look at, I'm in assignment 8. It's in here somewhere, there you go. Assignment 8. So this is where all my code is for this assignment. Here's my starter. Here's actually the final product of it. Here's my solution file, because I put it all in the same thing. And I may actually, this is where all my code is, my actual code is. Sorry about that. Here is my text file. Here are my various. Here's my solution file if I wanted the solution file. Here's the starter file if I wanted the starter file. But here are all my CPP files. And here is my text files in the same directory, in the same folder. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to take my leave. I'm hoping that made some sense even through my ramblings. You are reading in a text file and parsing strings and putting it into a structure. That's the point of this assignment. The output is relatively simple, but the idea is very powerful. It allows you to do things that some really interesting things like, calculate your final grades in all your courses. Read in a text file, spit out your final averages, let's say. These are the practice things you can actually do later on as you go further into programming. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and hopefully this was useful.